Well, I want to welcome you to this Grandpa Don podcast today. I am with another grandpa. Jeff is with me.
That's right.
And I'm going to welcome Jeff to be part of my Grandpa Don podcast. We're doing reminiscences, or reminiscences, if I could talk. You know, when you get old, your tongue tangles.
That's right.
Maybe even before that. But I am so happy to be able to do this because, well, it's the son of this Grandpa Jeff, who's the one that caused this idea to happen in the family.
It is.
Isaiah was the one that brought it up to me, I suppose, over a year ago, or about a year ago, something in that sort.
Give
anyway.
or take there, yeah.
And here we are. So, Isaiah, you are blamed, or acknowledged, or
credited,
depending on however you want to respond to this podcast. If it's a bad one, it's on you.
All right.
See, we're grandpas; we can blame others for.
Of course,
our
we've earned that right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right. So this is fun, and I wanted to just visit with you, Jeff, too, a little bit about memories, and you know, we were all kids one day in our lives. It's amazing that would be possible, but
for sure.
But there was a day when we were pretty little.
A long time ago.
And I'd just like you to kind of, give us a little bit of what you remember. I remember us talking that you were at Omaha when you grew up.
Born and raised in Omaha, yes.
So the first thing you saw when you were born was probably a hog or something. Was that?
Well,
I'm thinking my agricultural background, of course, here, and imposing it on you. So.
Yes. Yeah, well, back in the day, Omaha did have the big packing plants, but it was beef though, not hogs.
It was beef. I got that wrong. See, I was in the hog world in my South Dakota era.
Sure.
See,
right.
So we had beef too at Sioux Falls, but hogs and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, I let you now tell the story without my interruption.
Well, so I was born on a spring day in April 3rd of 1971 in Omaha at I believe it was Bergen Mercy Hospital. And the first place that I lived was, I think, an apartment, the second story of a house in South Omaha. And we lived there for the first, I think, about 2 years of my life. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, my mom and dad bought a house, still in South Omaha, but a little closer to downtown area. And right near 42nd and Center, just south of the VA hospital there. And that's where I spent pretty much the rest of my childhood. I lived there until I was 18, and then went to college after that, and moved to Minot after that. And so it's been a while, but
very good. So you had a pretty consistent place to live in your memory. You didn't have to move around when you were young.
Right.
You might want to tell about the, I don't know what we call it, mall or whatever that was close to your house?
Sure, yeah. Just half block north of our house was the Center Shopping Center Mall. And I believe it was one of, if not the first, enclosed or indoor shopping mall in the United States. They had a grocery store on the first floor for a while, and then there was a Yonkers Kilpatrick's in there, and so you could buy your clothes and jewelry and that kind of thing. And then there was a shoe store and a Hallmark and lots of other stores up on the top floor. There was a restaurant and a bowling alley, so it was a good place to hang out, do some shopping, have some fun, eat some food.
Yeah.
And
so when your family went out for shopping, you just had to walk down the street?
That's right. Or up the street. It was uphill.
But, it was uphill.
Yeah. So that way,
Oh,
coming down the hill after you bought all your stuff, you didn't have to struggle so bad. See,
that was a very good plan on your folks'
indeed,
part to be at a place where you could have downhill when you're loaded up with stuff.
absolutely, yeah.
Well, do you remember buying stuff at the mall then when you were young, or did your parents not give you any money and made you?
Yeah, well, I don't personally remember buying anything for myself there. I know I went Christmas shopping there quite a bit for my family. I remember buying shoes at the shoe store there as a
Yeah,
kid,
yeah.
but
Well, that's pretty advantageous to have the mall within walking distance, and then you could enjoy uh, eating out even somewhere. You said there was a
yeah,
place
there
to
was a restaurant there. I don't
restaurant.
I don't remember ever eating there. I'm sure we did once or twice, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But so what other and the VA hospital you said was close. I don't imagine you went over there too much though, or
Actually, my
did you?
my grandpa worked at the VA hospital in the lab. He was a lab technician there, and so he would, and then that's where he always got his haircuts too, is the barber
Okay.
shop inside the hospital, and so he would take my brother and I to the barber shop to get our haircut.
So you got VA benefits right off the bat as
That's
a
right.
kid. You could go and get your hair cut at the
Yeah,
VA hospital.
yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah.
incredible.
Right.
So that's a story not many people have.
That's true. And then we would go to the cantina afterwards and grab a little bite to eat.
Your grandpa was pretty good to you.
He was.
Isn't that nice to remember grandpas?
It is.
Since we're grandpas
Grandpas are
ourselves.
great people.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. We're great people
that's
here,
right.
and we wanted to. That's great. Well, anything you got your hair cut at the VA hospital? You got
Yeah.
to buy shoes down the street, and
Yep.
yeah, and you went to school somewhere close to that area, or
Yeah. My elementary school was maybe a mile or so away, give or take a few blocks, and it was Windsor Elementary School. It's the building is still there, but it's now condominiums.
oh yes.
And ironically enough, children are not welcome there.
Some things just really go the wrong
They
direction.
sure do.
Oh my goodness, that's quite a story in itself. We could do a podcast just on that.
I'm sure we could.
But that was school, as you remember it.
Yeah, and then my junior high was even closer. That was maybe 8 blocks or so away, and
Okay.
yeah.
So you walked a little. Did you walk to school when it was a mile away, or did you get a bus, or did you get folks?
Well, my mom worked rather early downtown, and so we would get dropped off at a house nearby the school, just a block away,
Okay.
and we would walk from there. My brother
Gotcha.
and I.
So your mom was earlier than the school started
That's
when
right.
she went to work, and then
Yep.
so that worked out apparently for everybody.
It did, yeah. And then my
Yeah.
grandparents would usually pick us up after school. So.
Sure, sure. So you had a pretty good grandpa and grandma time when you were a kid there.
Spent lots of time with grandma and grandpa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, so you had a grandma and grandpa in Omaha,
Yes, my mother's parents.
and that's your mother's parents, and then you had a grandpa and grandma.
In Caledonia,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
That's right, Caledonia, Minnesota,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
And that grandpa was also a pig farmer, so
Oh, good. So the
Yeah.
bringing up of the pig thing.
Yeah.
Now we're talking pigs now when you go to him.
that's right.
Very good.
Beef
I
in
knew there was a
Omaha,
way.
pigs in Minnesota.
Yeah, I knew there was a way we were going to get around to pigs.
That's
and,
right.
And so that's where you would go, and as we would say today, pig out.
That's right.
So did you go visit them very often, or very? I mean, they're quite a ways away from Omaha.
It was
so-
about an 8-hour drive, yeah. So
yeah.
for sure once a year, sometimes a little more, I think. But when my brother and I got to a certain age, we would spend sometimes a week, sometimes up to a month at Grandma and Grandpa's house in Caledonia. So
you got some good time that
we
way.
sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of memories do you have of Caledonia being a kid there?
It was a great little town. I loved being there. It was nice to be able to just ride your bike wherever you wanted to go and not have to worry about too much traffic or any weirdos or anything like that, that you get in the city. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and we were always seemed to be there over Founders Days. So then there would be a parade and
Wow.
kind of a flea market downtown and lots of stuff to buy and stuff going on at the fairgrounds.
Boy,
And so
that
we
was a
had
great time to be there as a kid.
fabulous time to be there as a kid.
So they knew how to your folks and they figured out a good time for you to be there. It sounds
They
like
sure
where they
did.
didn't have to worry about entertaining you too much on their own. They had help in
That's
the
right.
community.
Yes. Gave us activities to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And I know your Caledonia history there is not too far from the little town of Houston, Minnesota,
No,
where
that's
my
right. Just
mother's
down the street.
family settled actually way back
Yeah.
in the 18 whatever 60s, which is ridiculous to think about it being that long ago.
No kidding.
But we're oh yeah, and I'm going to interject a story about Gloria's family story with the Gloria Jean antique car
Yes.
that was built in 1947 and restored by her nephew, and he sold that car.
Oh, he did.
And the car is now owned by a gentleman down in Houston, Minnesota.
No kidding.
So there's a little bit of a interesting connection in some odd way
Yes.
that we're
Wow.
wrapping our stories together here from the different towns and places, aren't we?
Small world.
Yes, it's a small world and a lot of good things there. So you had parades and you had like a fair kind of activity when you're down there in Caledonia. You remember you talked about pigs? Did they ever have you go and feed the pigs sometime?
Well, my grandpa sold the farm when it was in 1975, so I was 4
Okay.
years old.
So you're a little too young to.
I don't remember much of the farm. I remember bits and pieces here and there, going sledding down their road, and
Yes.
oh,
that's good to do.
remember a little bit about the farmhouse and that.
Gotcha. So they had moved into Caledonia.
They had moved into town, yeah.
Yeah. So by the time you were maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
four or five, yeah.
4 or 5. That's when they moved. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So that. Yeah.
I was used to joke with my brother, my younger brother. He was born in 1975 too, and so I would joke with him and say it was a terrible year. I would say Grandpa sold the farm. In Omaha, there was both a blizzard and a severely devastating tornado that year, and he was born. So
that is a devastating combination. Oh, especially that birth part.
That's right.
That was what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's the humor. We do have humor in our life.
We do.
We?
Yes.
Yes, it's good.
And of course, it was all joking, but.
Yes, it was all joking, of course. And so, so you got that Caledonia part of your summers, I suppose.
It was in the summer, yes.
Yes, and then you'd go back and do the winter and the school and all the things.
Oh yes.
It was pretty common anyway.
That's right.
For people. Well, you might want to tell me about what was it that you were especially interested in when you were a kid?
I loved music. I started playing the cello in 4th grade and joined the church choir, the adult church choir in 7th grade, and kind of started volunteer directing that choir off and on for different things, and my love of music grew, and I just knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life, and
yes.
So yeah, all things musical was what I loved.
That's what really was your passion.
That's right.
Yeah.
All of my friends in high school were in music.
So you had a sort of community of interested in music type of friends.
Really
too.
did, yeah.
Yeah. So in school, there must have been some choir and an orchestra too with cello, or how was that?
Yeah, so the choir and the orchestra met at the same time. So unfortunately, you could only be in one or the other. And of course, being a cellist, I chose orchestra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then later on, I picked up the electric bass
Okay.
as a second instrument, and I played in the high school jazz band as well, which met at the end of the day. So
And all that
all that
jazz
jazz, yes.
was part of your life too, then.
Oh yeah,
Wow, right.
yeah,
I knew you were interested in music,
yeah.
and it started when you were
Pretty young.
real young.
Yeah.
So your mom and dad too must have been supportive of you to be interested in music.
Very much so. Yeah.
Were they interested in music, or how did that go in your family?
My mom sings. She's has a nice soprano voice, and she took piano lessons when she was a kid, but didn't keep up with it,
Yeah.
as is often the case.
Yes, of course.
And my dad has a beautiful baritone voice, and he was in the marching band in high school. He played the baritone, actually,
Okay.
baritone horn. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, of course.
yeah.
So that was their musical exposure, as you would say,
That's right.
and interests in their generation, which I guess is my generation. And
That's
I'm
right.
sitting here
They're
listening
the
to
same
you
age, yeah.
and thinking, oh my God, that's about when I was in school too, you know.
Yeah.
And for me, it was I was in band, and I was also in choir in high school. So
Okay.
they allowed me. We didn't have orchestra. We were too small for an orchestra.
Sure.
See.
Right.
So
Yeah.
clarinet was my
Clarinet.
instrument.
Very good.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think it was very good. I mean, my part in it. But it was good. But then I ended up with the bass clarinet.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
a little lower instrument. You know, when I got older, then they thought I'd do well with that, which was
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
And
A little more unique.
So it's unique. But when there was marching band, I was not carrying the bass clarinet.
Oh, sure.
They put me on the bass drum.
Oh.
Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
All right.
That was my. That's what I remember.
Of course. You need that in a marching band. It's
That
very,
was yes.
yeah,
Boom,
a
boom, boom,
big
boom,
necessity
boom, boom,
there.
brrr, boom, boom,
Uh-huh.
and then we'd play. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. I would just go boom, boom, boom.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I had to get the rhythm down.
Yes.
A bit that way. So
Sure.
well, so music is a great thing that brings us together, and
Indeed.
I remember that you and I, and this is maybe something we should acknowledge between us, is that when I was going through the tough times I had up in Minot, and we were Gloria or Elaine and I were going through separation and divorce, which was tough, and I was just out of my depression treatment and so forth. And you were willing to come along, and when I did a little recording,
Yes.
I have that somewhere. Probably should maybe dig that out. Maybe I can put it on one of these podcasts, some of these music
That'd be interesting.
stuff that would be interesting. But you and I did actually record something together.
Yes, we did.
So
You were playing guitar and singing, and I had my cello.
And you had the cello, and I thought it turned out pretty well.
I thought it did too.
I think we were a good team in that point. So I think we can celebrate that we did something together.
Yes, for sure.
Long ago now.
It's been a while, yeah.
So we can reminisce about those days.
Right.
And I know, poetry, music. I was not trained in music like you were. So I had no good sense of anything that way. Although my dad played the mandolin.
Oh, very good.
Yes, and we had in our house then some of the practices for what they called the Clarino band. Because Clarino was the township of our little community.
Okay.
And so they were the Clarino band. And Louis Johnson was the head of it, and he played, quote, the fiddle.
The fiddle.
The fiddle, not the violin, but the fiddle.
Yes.
But he was the leader of the band. He was kind of the main guy. And by the time it had gone on for a while, and they would play, like at a farmers union picnic or gathering of some, annual gathering of farmers,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd be on the back of a hay rack, playing
Sure.
playing out in wherever, and then what I remember about that, it was not no longer eventually the clarinet band. Time had gone past. And what I remember the announcer saying, and now we're going to hear some music from Louie and the Boys. And then they played whatever,
Yep.
their songs. And so I have it. So music was good for me too. It was part of
Music makes
my
great
life.
memories.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, uh, so we've covered. Oh, I was going to ask you about holidays a little bit when you were a
Yeah.
kid. Yeah, you got any Christmas or Thanksgiving stories? Because we've got that on record for some of the rest of us.
Sure. So my parents divorced when I was about 6 years old, I believe, and so holidays were every other split between mom and dad, and uh, so most I remember a lot of Thanksgivings at Grandma's house. Grandma and Grandpa being in Omaha, of course,
Yes.
and it's my mom's parents. So whenever and pretty much any holidays we had with mom were at Grandma and Grandpa's house.
Yes. Hmm.
And mom had four sisters, and one of them had seven children, and so there were always lots of people around, and
Yeah.
it was always a bustle with noise and fun and
And those were
activities.
kids about your age, or?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a group of three of us cousins that are each we're 1 month apart. So there's me, born in April. There's my cousin Chrissy, who lived in Denver. She was born in May, and then my cousin Jeremy, as one of those seven, was born
Yeah.
in June of the same year. And so
So,
Jeremy and I were very close.
yes, I bet you were.
Hmm.
So those were good memories for getting together with them.
That's right.
And
And I remember one Thanksgiving we were there, and my my cousins from Texas were up for Thanksgiving, and it snowed.
oh my.
It snowed a lot. We had feet of snow,
Okay.
and this was their first time ever seeing snow. My
Oh
cousins
my
from Texas, Greg
goodness.
and Kim. And so we had a blast building snow forts and having snowball fights, and
I'll bet they'll never forget that either.
I'm sure they won't.
That's
It was
that's
a
quite
lot
a
of great
story.
fun.
So Thanksgiving and snow came
That's
together
right.
one year.
Yes.
Memorably.
Very much so.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's a great story. How about your experience with the Christmas season? Was that the same where you kind of split back and forth?
Yep,
somehow?
exactly. Back and forth. So one year we'd be with dad, and another year we'd be with mom,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I don't have as many memories of Christmas for some reason. Just
Yeah.
nothing really eventful seemed to really.
Yeah, they didn't pull any tricks on you or make you,
No,
embarrassed or anything
no,
like that.
I didn't have any forks and knives or in my
Yeah,
my gifts or
my
anything
story
like that.
is what I remember was I had
Yeah.
a gift that I thought was really something. My imagination went wild, and I found out it was just an empty box with a fork and a knife
That's right.
that made noise and made me really, really disappointed. And then I got, then I got the what was supposed to be the gift, and that was kind of like a downer, but it was a little a little record player with a little. I don't think the kids today, our grandkids or whatever, would even know what that is hardly, because those record players are kind of antiquated way back in history, but there's
They
a little
are.
bit of it
There's
around.
coming back a little bit.
Yes, we're having that. So you never know. Maybe these old technologies might sort of stay around.
Yes.
But that was the thing at the time.
Oh yeah.
And
Definitely.
that was a new invention actually when I was a kid. If you think about that. So, but anyway, yes.
Yeah. I do remember one Christmas. I think it was probably. I don't remember if my brother was born yet, or if so, he was very small. But my mom and dad were still together, and we drove to Caledonia for Christmas.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember it was snowed. It was uh, maybe not snow, but freezing rain or something. It made the roads really slippery. So mom and dad got a certain ways and decided, no, we're going to turn around. And they came back home, and we went then the next day.
Wow. So there
Uh,
was weather is always not predictable.
That's right.
In holiday season like that, and
Very true.
that makes it memorable when you have that.
Yes. But my dad had a Ford pickup at the time with it was called I think it was called a Kidnapper on the back. It was like a little camper type thing that you could ride in, and you had seats in it, and you open the sliding window between the little camper and the cab of the pickup to let the heat in, and
Wow, that was
talk back and forth and that kind of thing. And
they allowed you to do that as you remember.
yeah, and there was a toy Santa Claus that I had, and you push the belly of the Santa Claus, and it would, I think it would sing a song like something, over the river and through the woods or something. I don't remember.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that was entertaining and appropriate to the trip.
Exactly. That's what kept me entertained for that trip.
Well, I'm a generation older than you, and the days of laws about seat belts and so on were not around in those days.
Very true.
And we had a Ford pickup, 1949 Ford pickup, and my dad had put a tarp over we had sideboards, and then put a tarp over it, and we were going out to see my grandpa out in Hollabird, and so my sister and I think my brother was pretty small, but they had a little chair and table in there. And then on the back end, when we go through a small town, we'd wave at people, and they'd wave at us. You see, so my parents would have probably been put in prison, in our day, if we would have been doing that now in our world of safety.
Yes.
But boy, that was memorable.
Yeah.
And when you talked about that, so we had something of a similar kind of experience along the pickups and the
yes,
and the camper.
Yeah.
But you had a little bit higher class.
A little bit, yes.
A little bit higher class than we did, yeah.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that's fun to know.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing pretty good here. I think. Is there any other memories? Did you do nativities stories in church at all? Sunday school sometime? Do you have any memories of that type of thing once in a while? Or?
We did, yeah. I remember being Joseph one year.
Okay.
And of course there was no lines for Joseph, but so that made it an easy part.
That's a part one can handle. Yeah, very, very good.
We used to have Easter sunrise services led by the youth.
Yeah.
And so I was a part of those many times.
And you had that too, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good memories of holidays, I think, at least with the church connections maybe both of us have had in our ways.
My birthday being April 3rd, I remember Easter being on my birthday one year.
Yes.
That we led an Easter Sunday early morning service.
And it was your birthday.
And it was my birthday.
Oh, you can't have a better combination.
No, that's right. And then, of course, after the service that the youth led, we all went out for breakfast and had a good time. So that was nice. Yeah.
Well, that's a great story to end on. I think we're about a half hour down this road already.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
I can't.
I hope our kids, grandkids, and maybe great-great-grandkids someday might have heard this, and we hope you enjoyed, and God bless you all. Thank you very much, Jeff.
You're welcome. Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome, too. Take it away. See what JJ does with that ending.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't stop it. And so JJ might add this, what we've just done as an after thing, making us look foolish.
Oh, yeah.
I'll stop it now.